I mean, this is just, decade after decade of bad policies, bad leadership, Karen Bass over in Ghana. So to your point, this is the inflection point. I mean, people have seen nationally and locally how this happens. And I always say, like, you cannot vaporize the Palisades and get away with it.
Huntington Beach, California is a town in Orange County. That's south of LA where the fires are happening right now, but they're just the next door neighbors to Los Angeles County. Huntington Beach recently had an election that made the entire city council conservative. A 7-0 sweep. They've got 7 conservatives in Southern California. And you're thinking to yourself, how is this possible in California? Isn't this the most liberal state in the nation? Well, turns out maybe all those progressive policies that are being shoved down the throats of Californians are backfiring. And certainly that seems to be the case in Huntington Beach. Can this group of 7 city council people, including the mayor and the mayor pro temp, who we're about to have on, influence other things going on in California, influence other elections, influence the recall of LA Mayor Karen Bass, influence the recall of the governor of California, Gavin Newsom? What kind of influence can they have? Because they're certainly changing Huntington Beach. And from what I hear, Gavin Newsom doesn't like this very much. He's got lawsuits against Huntington Beach over several issues, which we're going to detail for you. But I am really glad to have these 2 guests on, because this could be a real sign of the times that we're in, that people are tired of nonsense. They want public safety. They want like common sense protections and things that help prevent fires, not just respond to fires. So I'm excited to have on Pat Burns. He is the mayor of Huntington Beach, and Casey McKeon. He is the mayor pro tem, which is basically the vice mayor of Huntington Beach. And they're going to tell us how they got this majority, ultimate majority, and how they're helping to save California. That is next. Gentlemen, welcome. I guess my first question out of the gate is, how in the hell did you guys get a 7-0 conservative majority in Huntington Beach, California?
Well, we put in the work for one thing, but it wasn't hard because the 6-1 council was so bad, progressive, that it kind of set the stage that irritated the citizens and us to get into the race. And they did such a terrible job representing the people that it set really the stage for us to step in and turn the city back to what our community really likes to be, is more of a conservative based town.
Yeah, also too, I'd say, Huntington Beach in general is a majority conservative, but the problem with city council races there is no primary. So there's no one-on-one candidate. And there would always be too many Republicans or conservatives running for a city council race, and we'd always split the vote. Okay. And the left was good about being disciplined and only putting up the amount of candidates that were available for the open seats. So we finally got wise and got together as conservatives and be like, let's, it goes against our DNA as a conservative because we're super entrepreneurial. So you don't want to tell someone, no, you can't run. But we finally realized if we got smart and worked together and kind of, if you didn't want to run for council, we can put you guys on a commission and kind of build a bench and do it that way. And we, myself and Gracie Vandermark, who was our mayor last year, and Tito Ortiz ran as like a slate in 2020. Yeah. And everyone said that'll never work if you run as a team. And she almost got in. Tito got first out of the top 3. She got 4th. But then her and I just kept campaigning. Then we met Pat in 22 and then Tony Strickland as well. And we all teamed up as a team and we won in a huge landslide victory. I mean, I was the 4th of us 4. Top 4 got in, and I was 12,000 votes over the next candidate, which was one of the left, one of the Democrats.
Wow. I'd like to say that this is a sign of the times, because we have seen from the top, the White House, how that progressive agenda, and even we can refer to last night's goodbye speech from Joe Biden, in which it was just awful. And I think people are so starving for a change. We knew the Biden administration would be liberal. We didn't know how far they would go. And now it feels like it's swinging back. Do you think that plays any kind of role here, that there is sort of a a pendulum swing here, Pat?
Yes, I definitely feel that people were ready, and that's what I mean. I know in our city, our previous council was doing so bad, doing so many things progressive or woke that our citizens were like, "Oh my gosh, what is going on?" And then we brought it to light through our campaigning, and we hit it hard. We did do the work to get there. I think when we ran, there was 23 people total running.
Yeah.
And so we did the work and we won, and we brought it back, thank God, to a majority. But our city set an example, and that it could be done, and that it's worth doing. And we recognize really nationally for the conservative work we were doing. But really, it's funny because it's really for Huntington Beach first, and whatever follows. And it's an example, though, that if we join together and we work together, it can be done.
Yeah.
Casey, I think what people are astonished by is that this is California. California has a reputation of being uber left. I was born and raised there, went to Cal Berkeley for my undergrad, went to USC for my MBA. So you and I have that in common, Casey, the business school there. But, so I know California. I left a long time ago, and I could never see myself going back under the current circumstances. Right. And I think we're at an inflection point in California right now. Sure. So obviously we got to talk about these wildfires. We got to talk about your governor. We got to talk about Karen Bass. I realize you are not in Los Angeles County. You're in Orange County, correct?
Yes.
So we border it. We're right next door.
You do border it. And I know everyone in that area is feeling this, experiencing this in some way, shape, or form. Casey, what are the chances? I'm sitting here in Minnesota, but a Californian. What are the chances that Gavin Newsom could successfully be recalled, given what the heck is going on there?
No, and I've been using that word as well. I mean, first, obviously, our prayers go out to everyone affected by the wildfires.
Question.
And I have a friend actually who lived in the Palisades, and his whole neighborhood got vaporized, and his kids' schools just devastated. And it really just brings to light what liberal policies and incompetence and lack of leadership can bring onto a community, especially the state of California. I mean, this is going back to, I think, in '98, like Prop 103, prevented the insurance companies from raising rates, their premiums to, assess risk and all those things. And then the not allowing the water to flow down to the 35 or 38 million residents of California, because we want to protect the Delta smelt fish or the Chinook salmon, not proper forest management, not creating fire breaks. I mean, this is just, decade after decade of bad policies, bad leadership, Karen Bass over in Ghana. So to your point, this is the inflection point. I mean, people have seen nationally and locally how this happens. And I always say, you cannot vaporize the Palisades and get away with it. It's unbelievable the amount of destruction that this has happened, and it was so preventable. And they'll harp on, it's climate change. It's like, okay, if you really believe that, then what are you going to do about it?
Right.
You're going to prepare for it.
Exactly.
Creating fire breaks and pre-burns, it's going back to the early days of civilization. We've had those techniques in our toolbox. Why don't we use it today? It doesn't make any sense.
Pat, explain what a fire break is.
Fire break is just a line through the brush that gives it a point to stop and break. It's just exactly what it sounds like. If the fire is rushing through a hill, you'll see it up in mountains. You used to, at least. And what's that line going through over the mountain? Well, that was a fire break, and it gives a chance the fire to stop at a certain point.
Yeah, you basically, as our fire chief calls it, it's called fuel, right? Like kindling or timber for fires to consume, and you create a break, so you remove that fuel, so it hits a line of fuel, stops because there's nothing left to burn. And it's basically a buffer between the forest and your homes. And we've done this, like I said, since the dawn of civilization.
Yeah. And
it doesn't make any sense that we don't still use these techniques.
I remember being on a trip at the Grand Canyon with my family, and my kids were younger, and we saw these controlled burns, and my kids were like, what is that that's on fire? And it's like, no, that's a controlled burn. That's to prevent bigger fires later. This stuff, like you said, is so basic. Yeah. And the other point that you made, Casey, is that if they are so fervent about climate change, then get all your damn money out of DEI and all this other crap and put it toward counter, if that's what they believe it is, and we knew these winds were coming, and yeah, Karen Bass was in Ghana and all the rest. The lack of preparedness and the lack of response, and we're hearing more and more.
Yeah.
I'd like to, Casey, kind of cut through. We're hearing this on the national news. You guys are there. How much of this, like, what's accurate, and are there inaccuracies that we're hearing? The Chinese U.S. Treasury hack, a new virus spreading in China. What else is unfolding behind the scenes that we aren't being told? Or worse, what critical information is being hidden? Why gamble your financial future? Regardless of who's in office, safeguarding your wealth is essential. Many of us are hopeful for Trump's return, but we all remember the challenges of the last election and the interference that hindered progress. Relying solely on digital systems or banks, that's a risk you cannot afford to take. And that's why I'd like you to take a look at American Independence Gold. Visit tafoyagold.com, TAFOYA gold.com to learn more. Or here, write this number down, 833-324-4653. For generations, gold and silver have been the ultimate safe haven, weathering wars, recessions, and market crashes. This is more than just owning gold. It's about taking control of your financial future. As a proud veteran-owned company, American Independence Gold goes the extra mile by supporting military families. They cover custodial fees for life on qualifying accounts, and they donate a portion of every purchase to the Tunnels to Towers Foundation, which is one of my favorites. Don't wait to secure your future. Act before it's too late. Visit tafoyagold.com, TAFOYA gold.com. Do it now to learn more. Or here's the phone number, 833-324-4653. Call them today, 833-324-4653 or tafoyagold.com. Make the smart move for your future today at Tafoya Gold, TAFOYA gold.com. How much of this, like, what's accurate, and are there inaccuracies that we're hearing?
I mean, based on everything I've read in the news, it's pretty accurate. I mean, we jumped in right away to help. We sent several fire crews up immediately to help out with them. I mean, they're our neighbors. We've had so many residents reach out and donate goods. We've had amazing local businesses like Calico Fish House and Bill's Barbecue and others have collected donations. So it's affected everybody. I've seen the Pacific Palisades Reservoir has been empty for months because they're
a year and a half
because they're supposed to repair some lid feature on the reservoir, and they haven't done it. We passed Prop 1 in 2014 to increase our water infrastructure, retention, more basins, and not one project has been completed.
But I think it goes back to what we were talking about, and you mentioned it, Michelle, that we're getting back to the basics. The country's getting back. They were pushing agenda and not public service. We're in the business of public service and serving the people, not an agenda. And they were cramming an agenda, and that goes federal, state, county, in a lot of cities, agenda over service. And that's where I think we suffered. And I think that fire in Palisades is a perfect example where they were putting agenda before service. And, well, unfortunately, they're paying a very severe price. I think the deaths are up close to 25 now.
No, and it's a lack of leadership. To Pat's point, it's their priorities are not, accurate. They're not correct. They're not focused. So instead of, focus on what's necessary, I think Karen Bass cut $21 million from the fire department budget, or whatever the number was, maybe it was in the teens, and then allocated $21 million to help with illegal immigrants. The California state legislature is pushing through an emergency hearing to Trump-proof California. It's like, why don't you fire-proof California?
They just approved $25 million to fight Trump and $25 million to help the illegals fight
deportation
and some of the laws that are being imposed upon them for being illegal.
And what's crazy too is if you look at the Palisades, Adam Carolla did a great bit on it, but I think they're 80% Democrats. These are uber left, uber rich. You just vaporize the Palisades. Now these people are going to want to rebuild their homes. I mean, good luck getting through the Coastal Commission anytime soon.
And then policies by Newsom with the insurance. So from what I understand, there's a lot of those homes in there that their homeowners insurance was canceled months before the fire, so they don't even have homeowners insurance. So they have really lost everything.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier with the insurance companies. I mean, they're in the business of assessing risk. So they're trying to raise premiums to meet the risk because they see what's going on. Like we talked about, proper, forest management, no controlled burns, no fire breaks. And so they see this as a risky environment, which it is. And so they pulled out. And I think now I've seen some press that all these, damages from the fires are going to be passed on to all current insurance policyholders in California. So us residents who, pay the highest taxes in the country, are now going to have these premiums passed on to us, and we'll all be paying for this damage from just lack of leadership and total incompetence.
I mean, that's what this is. And as you said, it's been agenda driven over, crime, fire protection, all service, the basics. Yeah. And it's so infuriating to people. You mentioned Adam Carolla. He's always been, vocally more conservative. Right. Now you have Justine Bateman, formerly of Family Ties, and she's very recognizable, still there living in LA, just hammering Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom on social media. She's been appearing on television. This is Justine Bateman, whom I think most people would look at her and go, oh, she's probably a lefty. And so she may have some liberal policies that she, supports. But when you get to the basics like this, you can't ignore this. What's driving me crazy is people who say, oh, you can't politicize this. This is not about politics, although the Dems made it about politics. Here. What's that?
That's how we got here.
That's how we got here is politics. Now we're saying, look at your policies. Lay these bare to Californians. Now do you understand how inept and misguided and the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Yeah. And here you are, you're in hell now. So, and we're hearing, sorry, I just want to finish I'm trying to get a question out here and I can't, I'm so angry that I need to hone in on my question. We talk about Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom and people are saying, oh, Karen Bass probably isn't going to make it out of this. Gavin might. Make it out of this. Yeah. Neither one of you should be in office right now. No. Who wants to start on that?
I'll be glad to dive into Newsom.
The mayor. Go ahead. Yeah.
I'll tell you, that guy, he is a tyrant. And he's no different than a schoolyard bully because he's pushing down his agenda on California and he's attacking us. That's why we have lawsuits against it. But I belong to a lot of different boards and committees throughout the county. And the smaller cities, they would love to fight some of his housing mandates and things. But they can't because they don't have the funds. They don't have a elected city attorney on staff. So they got to go outside to hire lawyers to fight Newsom and his policies. And Newsom knows this, that these cities can't fight it. So they have to go along with it or suffer, great financial hardship. And most of them are struggling anyways. So he knows it. So he's a bully tyrant and trying to shove his agenda. And it's not serving the people, it's serving his power mongering. He's just trying to strap in power at the expense of the people of the state. That we're on a budget. He's created this huge deficit, but yet he's letting people across the border, giving them free housing, free food, free phones, healthcare, free medical, free everything. And then saying we have a housing shortage, but you're letting in people that don't belong here. They're not here legally. So he's creating this housing shortage. If there is one, there really isn't. I don't believe it's a scam. Yep. But it's to get him more power. And that goes right along the whole country, I think. Well, the left is agenda driven with their power, try to monger.
It's amazing to me that it kind of took this long for more people to notice it. But sometimes you got to get a wake up call. Those of us that spend our time just submerged and immersed in the news and in all of this, we know, and I've been screaming from the rooftops and many of us have, but there are some people who are just going along with their daily lives trying to make ends meet and they don't pay close enough attention until there is a massive wake up call. And I feel like that morning alarm is going off in California. You've had two DAs booted,
Yep.
Chesa Boudin, and in Southern California as well, these
Governor
progressive
Gascon.
DAs. Yeah, Gascon. And so that people saw that. But there are some people that say to me, there's no way there's going to be this massive political change in California. But I don't know about that. I feel like, are you feeling it?
I'm optimistic. I try to always be optimistic.
So I wake up in the middle of the night last night and I'm coughing and I know I need to go back to sleep. So I reached for the sleep cream, not a pill, not a prescription. It's a cream that you can apply. And I always do it before bed. I think I forgot last night. So I had to redo it in the middle of the night. And then I was able to do what you're supposed to do, which is let your body relax and go to sleep. Now, look, I was a skeptic. I've told you when I first heard about this product, I'm like, whatever. But let me tell you, they use an all natural CBD combined with the finest essential oils. You put it on, and I usually put it on the insides of my forearms and wrists or bottoms of my feet. And within minutes, I am able to relax enough to go to sleep. You can find them at sleepcream.com. Cream is spelled CREME, sleepcream.com. Just try it for a couple nights. If it doesn't help you get a better night's sleep, you can return it for a full refund. Actually, you don't have to return anything. They'll just give you a refund for your purchase. And that's a guarantee, okay? You don't have to return anything. Go to sleepcream.com, CREME, CREME.com. And if you use the code GAMEDAY at checkout, all one word, you can get free standard shipping on your first order. Use the code GAMEDAY at checkout for free standard shipping on your first order. Sleepcream.com, CREME.com. Try it. Again, if it doesn't work, you'll get your money back. There are some people that say to me, there's no way there's going to be this massive political change in California. But I don't know about that. I feel like, are you feeling it?
I'm optimistic. I try to always be optimistic, but I really can see it. People are tired of it. You see these companies that are done with it. They're dumping the DEI program.
Which proves, doesn't it, that this was performative to begin with? Like if DEI was really helping their bottom line and helping their business beyond just, being acceptable and virtue signaling, they would keep it, but they're not because people are speaking up about it.
Yeah, tired of it.
Well, no, and the nation rejected it on November 5th, right? A majority of the country did. I mean, I know they'll say, Trump only got 49.9%, but if you throw in Bobby Kennedy, I mean, he's at 50.5%. So the majority of the country rejected it in earnest, and you're seeing it. And I truly, to your point, I feel this is the moment for California. Like I feel it in my bones, in my soul. And going back to your point about politics, like don't politicize it. I mean, this is because of politics and politicians and their incompetence and lack of leadership. So Rick Caruso ran against Karen Bass in 2022. Rick Caruso is a very successful businessman, very successful developer, built the Grove in Los Angeles. There's a video of him in 2022 explaining exactly how to prevent these fires from occurring, what needs to happen, funding the fire department, et cetera. Did they elect him? No, they did not. And then recently, Rick Caruso has a huge shopping center up near the Palisades, and he hired private firemen to protect his property. And now he's getting blasted by the left that, he only cares about his property. It's like, well, he is not in leadership, but he knows what to do to prevent structures from being burned to the ground. Did they elect him? No, they did not.
Going around the city talking to firefighters and talking to paramedics, I've been talking to residents, and there's a deep concern throughout this city that the paramedics and the firefighters are understaffed because their budget has not been restored. From 15 years ago, when it was cut back, we have fire stations throughout this city that aren't mobilized because they don't have the staffing to do it, and it's just wrong. My plan as mayor is simple. We are going to restore the budget to bring the staffing levels back, to give the residents of Los Angeles the service they pay for and deserve. And that's the only way a city can be a great city. We have to reprioritize our budget in this city to make sure that our residents are safe and they're protected. And we can't do that unless we have a fire department that is fully funded and fully staffed.
And so if you look at California, it's mostly just the dense urban areas like San Francisco and Los Angeles that really kind of sway the votes. But these policies have led to an exodus of residents from California, so much so that we lost a congressional seat for the first time in our history. And so myself and Pat, we're closely with the Orange County GOP on the Central Committee, and we all know that we've saved the country. I think we saved the world, and now all eyes are on California. And I will tell you, whether it's Charlie Kirk or others, we're really focused on California. We know the recipe now, how to expand our base, reach out to all voting groups, all demographics, chase ballots, and really focus on taking California back, because I really believe this is the moment we can do it. And to Pat's point, we're very optimistic. And
Pat, have you guys yet been fielding calls from other municipalities or cities? Because I think some of us here in Minneapolis would really like to tap into your recipe. I'm just wondering, what the message is to other. It's not like we have to be 7-0. Yeah. I'm thrilled that you are, because it to me it says more about the people, the voters in your city than anything else. But I do think that people would be very interested to know what it takes, Pat. And so you mentioned a little bit of that recipe. I'm curious if others have reached out to you and said, how do we do what you did?
Absolutely. Yeah. But to me, like I said, the recipe is kind of simple. Find the people who are angry, like yourself, and they see that we can't be agenda driven. We can't be this woke society. It won't work. It will not work. And find the people who are willing to stand up for what's right and put community service before self-service or agenda, and put the work in to get elected. And then when they get there, don't be afraid. We as a council, I've always said, I have no problem doing the right thing. Right. My heartbeat it goes from 65 to 65. And I have no problem doing the right thing. And it might be controversial, but I could justify doing the right thing. Doing the wrong thing, you're going to have to explain why you're turning your back on service to the people over some woke agenda. And that's all like this current Sacramento majority in the capital of California, that. But they have this agenda to ruin California and to urbanize it. And that's why the housing mandates and things like that.
Hey, let me ask you, Casey, when he says the word urbanize, because now I'm seeing these suggestions, and I've seen some government officials being interviewed about how, maybe what we should do with that land now in the Palisades is build multifamily units and condos and the rest instead of single family homes. And I'm sure that there are people who see the virtue in that. But what about the freedom and the independence and the liberty we have in this country to pursue our own individual dreams and aspirations, as Kamala Harris said, that maybe says, I want my own single family home and I want it in Pacific Palisades?
Well, no, it's private property rights, right? I mean, that's, to Pat's point, self-governance. Like everything we've done that Newsom's suing us over is all we've been trying to do is defend our local control, defend our private property rights, defend our ability as a council to zone our city the way our residents see fit. And what California's done is they've come down and created what's called a housing mandate, and they've gone to each city and said, you need to zone for a certain amount of homes to meet our quote unquote housing crisis. They gave Huntington Beach the highest amount of units of housing requirement or mandate of any city in California. Is it a coincidence that we're a strong conservative city? I'll leave that up to your viewers to decide. But to your point, then they passed Senate Bill 9 that says, you're allowed to divide your single family lot into a duplex. So you can have 4 units on one single family lot, no additional requirement for parking. So they want to urbanize and densify all of these cities and basically take you out of your car if you think about it. But then you look at the Palisades. So now we're going to have high density apartment buildings in the Palisades, and now more people are going to be disbanded and more of their property is going to be destroyed and more people are going to be injured. I mean, they're not solving the root problem of leadership and policy to prevent these fires from happening. But to your point, they want to just pack us all in these, we call them stack and pack buildings, and take you out of your car. And they call it 15-minute cities. So SCAG, Southern California Association of Governments, that is their policy to create a 15-minute city. We have projects that have come before us where they have no parking because they say, oh, we're on a transit line, so everyone's going to take the bus. And then you talk to the developer who's a for-profit affordable housing developer, which I don't know how that works because I'm a developer myself. And he's like, we're like, how can you not provide parking? He's like, oh, we've got the math figured out. So the more affordable I make the unit, the farther someone's willing to park and then walk to their house. So if I make it really affordable, they're willing to park 20 minutes away and walk to their apartment or their condo. And so now they're affecting other people's communities. They're parking in their neighborhoods, right? And so the whole thing is a total scam. Like I said,
Builder scam.
Builder scam. I develop projects. I work in retail, but I develop projects across the country. And California is by far the most expensive state to develop in. It's almost double. It's because of massive government overregulation, studies and fees that you need to, perform. And that all filters down to the bottom line to the end user. So that's why they say we have a quote unquote housing crisis of unaffordability. It's because of the California's policies and their overregulation.
Gavin Newsom wants to take over our governing of our city and tell us how to do it. And I guess he just wants us to be ribbon cutters or anything. But we represent the people, and we know what Huntington Beach is like. That's what makes each of these cities unique. And I think he wants to take that away and us just become under his rule. I have no respect for that man.
And so how capable is he of doing that to you? Like what you said, he's suing the city?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, Michelle. So we got elected. We signed a contract with the community that right away we're going to let our elected city attorney, Michael Gates, push back against the state on these housing mandates. So we filed a lawsuit. They filed one almost the exact same day against us. So we filed in federal court. They filed in state court fighting these housing mandates, because what they have is a one size they think fits all solution to every single city. And they use it always under their same line of legal attack, which is it's a matter of statewide concern. So they say housing is a matter of statewide concern. So therefore they can subvert our local control as a city council and dictate how we zone our city. I always say if Sacramento can dictate how cities are run and micromanage them, then why even have city councils in the first place? And another argument we push back on is if it's a matter of statewide concern, then how come Marin County has been exempted from these same affordable housing mandates?
That's where Gavin Newsom.
Do you know where Gavin Newsom's from?
Marin County.
Marin County.
It's despicable. It's disgusting. And people need to open their eyes to this stuff. And I'm glad you two guys, one of the things I really appreciate in meeting you and talking to you is you're very plain spoken. Like you can talk to people and say, this is what the hell is going on. This is why we need your support. I freaking hope you kill it in these lawsuits. But more importantly, let me ask you this real quick. If Karen Bass gets the boot, they would hold a special election, correct?
I believe so.
And then do you think at this point, now is Caruso considered positively enough to win that?
I would hope so. He was so close in 22.
Was he?
I mean, the guy's a pro. He totally gets it. I mean, like I said, people just have to look at that video in 22 when he was campaigning. I mean, the guy's a stud. I don't know how he won, but again, it's LA. It's LA.
It's LA.
Right?
LA. Remember, years ago, I think it was in 2020, 104% of their voters voted. 104%.
104%. That's amazing. Was it like dogs or,
Well, Michelle,
we have a friend. We know some people. Well, the dad is not a citizen. He's trying to get a citizen. He got a ballot. We know another guy that his dog got a ballot.
Yeah.
And they want us all to just say, yes, all elections are fair and free and perfect. And
there's no issues.
We're not allowed to question anything. We're not allowed to question it.
Well, Michelle, here's a good point. So we're a charter city. There's like 142 charter cities in California out of like the 482 cities. What that is, that gives us like added protections codified by the California state constitution. So it's federalism, right? Kind of like a state within a state.
Okay.
But of course we have to, for our municipal local affairs. And so chapter 11,
Chapter 5.
section 11, subchapter 5 of the California state constitution allows charter cities to run their municipal elections. So Pat brought forward a measure last year to put voter ID on the ballot. In the March primary, our voters voted for it overwhelmingly. And when we were putting it on the ballot, Senator Dave Min, who is now our congressman, kept coming to our council meetings saying voter ID is illegal. We're like, well, no, it's not. We're protected by the California state constitution to run our municipal elections. So we passed it, put it on the ballot. Well, as soon as after we codify it into our charter, he pushes legislations to make voter ID illegal. Like, you can't have it both ways, Dave Min. You couldn't say it was illegal before, and now you're passing legislation to make it illegal, which, of course, Gavin Newsom signed.
And he supported full on
to ban voter ID. So we're the only city in California that has voter ID.
Bravo.
He sued us, of course. The judge sided with us because we haven't implemented it yet. And now our friend Bobby Bonta, the attorney general, is now appealing the voter ID to the the DC Circuit Court. So again, it's just constant attacks, trying to violate our local control. But Pat has an amazing chart in his office. It says things that require ID, and on the left side is, the list goes down to the door.
Yeah.
On the things on the right, it says things that don't require ID, voting.
It's one of the most. First of all, I think the vast majority of Americans are in favor of voter ID.
Absolutely.
And we've been told for so long, oh, it's racist. It's what? No, no,
It's absurd. It's absurd.
no. But because
Michele.
everybody drinks, everybody gets on airplanes, everybody buys medicine.
I was a policeman for 30 years in a town just north of us.
Long
30
Beach,
years.
right?
Yeah, Long Beach, exactly. And I'll tell you, everybody has an ID. Everybody, especially in the ghetto. Everybody in the impoverished neighborhoods, just about everyone has an ID. It is not something unique.
This is not controversial.
Race is not.
This is not controversial.
It is if they say it is in their world.
So Michele, like here when you go to vote, so you go to the booth, right, or the voting place, and they go, "What's your name and address?" And I go, "Can I just show you my ID?" No, we can't accept it. So I tell them my name, I tell them my address. They flip it over. Does this look right? Yes, it does. So I use the analogy when I was up at the city council meeting. I'm like, imagine going to the airport, going through TSA. They go, "Let me see your ID." I'm like, "Can I just tell you my name and address?"
Right.
You get arrested, right? And so I brought that up, and our previous council, the Democrats or the left, said, "Oh, you just assume everyone can afford to go on an airplane?" I'm like, "Come on."
Oh my gosh. See, this is how they do it. They take these tiny little rarities and try to make you sympathetic toward that. Not everyone can afford to go on a plane. Not everyone can afford to buy beer. Shut up. You know what? In America, we give everyone equal opportunity to pursue those things. And government regulation now is what's getting in the way.
That's what I love about America. We have our own destiny in our own hands.
Right.
And if you don't do it, you shouldn't depend on government, and government shouldn't try to do it for you.
No, and it's that dependence on government that has gotten us into trouble. And if you just for a minute watch any of the hearings in DC, watch Gavin Newsom, pleading for his political life on Twitter, on X, or with any podcast he can get on while he's sitting, while a major part of his state is burning, you realize these people are not in it for the right reasons. They're not in it for you. And do you really want to turn over your dependence to them? Do you really want to have these people, the Nancy Pelosi's and Adam Schiff's, and how Adam Schiff won his
don't even get
I don't want to get you started, but okay. I asked you about Karen Bass. If Newsom were to be recalled, is there someone waiting in the wings right now that you could see being able to win a special election?
Good. I do nothing's like public yet, but there are some good individuals that are in the wings. Just kind of sit tight. Like I said, there's a big movement to take back the state. So yes, to answer your question, there are people in the wings and some good people that we think have the potential to win. And if you don't mind, I want to go back to your one question you asked, Pat, about other cities. People reach out to us all the time. We go to events whether it's
flag policy,
Anaheim, et cetera. How can we do this? And to Pat's point, it's easy doing the right thing, right? Doing the right thing is easy, but it's also just common sense. And so Pat brought up, when we got elected, like let's go back to a neutral flag policy. So the previous council had flown the pride flag, and it created a huge division in the community. Everyone's incensed, furious. So Pat's like, let's just bring it back to the middle the way it was. So only government flags on government property. It's pretty easy, right? All our tax dollars pay for our government. So we should only fly flags that represent all of us equally. Michele, I would say, on USC game day, should we fly the USC flag on city property? I'm pretty sure my UCLA
the Bruins would be up in arms.
They'd be a little upset. But so where does it end? But it was deemed controversial at the time, but it's just common sense. It's just fair. And then next thing you know, the Orange County Board of Supervisors adopted the same policy, and they had a Democrat vote for it. You had Ratchet Cucamonga do it. Downey in the city of LA did it. So courage is contagious. And I always tell people, get involved, get on the battlefield.
Florida just did it.
Florida did it statewide. But I tell people, if you want to get involved in politics, jump in, like find your local office. We need school board candidates. We need, strong people to give up their free time. If you really want to take back your country, that's what it requires, is give up your free time, get engaged, get involved, like find a local chapter of the Republican Party, or even if you're a Democrat, get involved and just get engaged in your community, find other like-minded, put in the work, just be a real person, common sense, plain spoken like we are. And if you're true to your character and you're willing to put in the work, you can take back your city, you can take back your county, you can take back your state, and we just took back the country, and that's what's required.
It's our home.
Right.
It's our community. This is where we live. I love our town, and it's worth fighting for. And people just got to find that in themselves and fight for their city, fight for their home. Yeah, and it's worth it. It's well worth it.
The policies that you're addressing, there's nothing controversial. I'll leave it with this. I was recently up in the wine country to give a speech, and I had to then be driven down to San Francisco International Airport, and it was in the morning, and we were driving, and I kind of wasn't paying attention as we left the place. And then I started to open my eyes when we got around the Golden Gate Bridge. This kind of makes me misty because my dad grew up in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Daddy. I started looking at the beauty of California, which is astonishing. It's so beautiful. And a lot of what they're thinking about with this urbanization will ruin the beauty of California and what the state has so much to offer, and they're just wrecking it. And it's so hard to watch. People, get Gavin Newsom out. I don't care about what experience he has. I don't care what his connections are. I don't care how handsome and smooth talking you think he is. He is not about freedom. He is not about liberty. He is not about self-sufficiency. He's about Gavin Newsom.
Yeah. And not only Gavin Newsom, get that whole progressive agenda and woke out. That is not helping us live a better life.
It is anti-liberal.
It deteriorates everything American.
But Michelle, I always say
better than that.
Yeah, I always say, because so many people leave, right, to go to like Idaho or Utah or Arizona.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's just going to follow you there as well. Like, stay and fight. I mean, it's California, of course, is worth fighting for. I always say I believe Huntington Beach is one of the best cities in the world for so many reasons, but just how beautiful it is. We're on the Pacific Ocean in Orange County, on the coast, and stay and fight. And we're like this red beacon in a big blue sea. But if you look at the state and you look at the map from the last election, I mean, the California moved to the right. And it's just these big, dense urban cities like San Francisco and LA that kind of drive our electoral votes. So we encourage all our neighboring cities, like, get in the fight, get involved. I know it's daunting, but it's not impossible. And I'm highly optimistic that we can take California back to the people the way it needs to be.
Stand up for the right thing.
That's right.
It's easy.
It's easy.
That's pretty easy to do. I always say be brave and do good to end my podcast. You guys both have in so many aspects of your life. I'm so appreciative of the time you spent with me today. I hope people listen to this and understand all you're doing is trying to do the right thing. This isn't anti anyone. This is pro individual, pro liberty, pro Californian. I'm so happy you're there. And I just hope you keep fighting.
Thank you so much, Michelle. We really appreciate it.
God bless.
Guys, thank you so much. Folks, I always say it. Be brave, do good, and we will see you next time.
Oh, this is his own water trucks.
Yep.
Wow. Everything on. Oh my gosh.
I've been going around the city talking to firefighters and talking to paramedics. I've been talking to residents, and there's a deep concern throughout this city that the paramedics and the firefighters are understaffed because their budget has not been restored from 15 years ago when it was cut back. We have fire stations throughout this city that aren't mobilized because they don't have the staffing to do it, and it's just wrong. My plan as mayor is simple. We are going to restore the budget to bring the staffing levels back, to give the residents of Los Angeles the service they pay for and deserve. And that's the only way a city can be a great city. We have to reprioritize our budget in this city to make sure that our residents are safe and they're protected. And we can't do that unless we have a fire department that is fully funded and fully staffed. I would fight for them as mayor by reducing crime in this city. It's spiraling out of control. I would make sure that the people living on the streets have a better path forward of life. We owe it to them. It's inhumane what we've done to the homeless. Get the encampments off the streets, put them in dry beds, get housing built in this city, and end the corruption in City Hall. What an embarrassment when you've got 3 council members pulled out of their office and handcuffed by federal agents. You have a city attorney that has his office raided by federal agents, and you got a mayor's office that's constantly in scandal.